Frankie Russo coming at you straight out of Brooklyn. I came on right after the All-Star game. American League won. The Yankees had a nice showing, and so did the Mets. So it was a nice All-Star game. CC did his thing. Chapman, Gleba, Sanchez, Gary Sanchez did his thing. So we'll see what happens if the Yankees now, we're getting ready for the second half. And we'll see if the Yankees are going to make a deal by July 31st. I don't know. I mean, there's all these rumors about starting pitching, but I don't believe the Yankees are going to get fleeced. I don't believe Cashman's going to allow that to happen. Give away a high-end player like Clint Frazier or Miguel Andujar, or there's talk the people, some teams wanted Gleyber Torres for a frontline pitcher. I mean, I don't know. I don't see Cashman going that route. I see the Yankees more or less acquiescing with maybe a high-end relief pitcher, and then maybe trying to get a Jonathan Loáisiga wound up, and/or a Devi Garcia, struck out 15 batters of the 6 innings that the 18 outs he struck out 15 batters. I mean, the guy's 20 years old, got great stuff. Luis Medina, Daniel Alvarez. There's a JP Firesen in AAA. That might be a way the Yankees may, because I think the Yankees are going to try to get another relief pitcher, and if they get Severino back and Betances with another high-end relief pitcher, the Yankees are loaded, because starting pitching isn't what it was, or maybe what it will be. 5-inning pitches, maybe 7-inning pitches the most. In the playoffs, everything's going to lean on the bullpen. And that's where I think the Yankees are going to win. Bullpen, and obviously big-time offense. The home run. So even if you get a guy for facing a big-time pitcher like Verlander, and the Yankees, the offense plays and hits the way they've been hitting, and they're patient, eventually they're going to run into something. And then we'll outlast them with the bullpen. And that's why landing another high-end bull, like a Brad Hand, isn't a bad thing. Or bringing up some young arms, trying to develop them like Jonathan Loáisiga, 98, and waiting for Severino to come back and waiting for Dylan Betances to come back. That would be like a big trade. That's what I see the Yankees doing. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But I'm leaning toward the Yankees not giving away the kitchen sink for Trevor Bauer, for Madison Bumgarner, for Wheeler from the Mets. I just see the Yankees moving like that. Maybe I'm wrong. I just don't see it. So we're getting ready for Friday night, the opening of the second half. We open up at home against Toronto, and we're going to watch that. The Giants, the New York Football Giants, are getting ready the end of July, and NBA is doing their summer league, getting ready for the fall. So don't be surprised if Westbrook ends up on because he comes, Russ Westbrook from the Okie Thunder, one of the best players in the NBA, may end up on the New York Knicks. That'd be crazy. That'd be amazing. So that's where we are in the sports world pretty much. So what I'm going to do tonight, I want to go through the map. I'm going to give you a map hit and show you why our great president, Donald John Trump, is concerned about Iran, that vector, the 130 tons to 350 tons of uranium. Russia, who has the nukes, who has the nuclear scientists, building nuclear reactors inside of Iran. And Netanyahu, actually through Mossad, the intelligence hub of Israel, garnering the Iranian atomic archive files, and showing pretty much Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, showing pretty much that Iran is not building nuclear reactors, quite frankly, to enable their people to live a better life and with energy less problems. Instead, they're moving toward a weapons proliferation, and that's a problem for everyone on the planet, including Americans, because nuclear war is a loss for everybody. Nobody wins in nuclear war, right? So we talked about this last night. Nukes, Iran, God forbid, gets nuked up. We got to close that border down. God forbid something like that gets through the border. Oh my God. And we got to find where it is. Horrific. God forbid. And then we got oxidative stress, which I'm going to talk about in the future. So let me get this thing up, this map going, and let's get this. I want to see how this map is going to work with this YouTube live gig that we're floating. Okay, so I'm going to hit some spots with Iran and show you why, quite frankly, our president, our great president, Donald John Trump, is taking a hard line on Iran. And quite frankly, before I get to the map, he's looks like he's doing similar to what he did with North Korea, right? Maybe I'll start from there. I'll start with North Korea, and I'll show you what President Trump did over there and how he actually made some inroads with North Korea. Maybe didn't get the actual denuclearization where they're actually, he got an agreement with them on paper, but obviously these are rogue nations and they pretty much do what they want over the long haul. But he did sick the Dobermans on them, did President Trump, the Pompeos and the Boltons, and at the time, Nikki Haley's. So President Trump's got a team of Dobermans to attack these countries while he does the diplomacy. He's a very, very, quite frankly, for an individual who's only been doing this for 3 years, this public service, this politician, presidential politics, he's pretty extraordinary. And, I think he's going to be quite formidable coming 2020 because you have I'm saying, quite honestly, hashtag Trump 2020 landslide, because you got President Trump now. In 2016, he didn't really have, quite frankly, if you really want to be honest, the office of the President of the United States is a daunting undertaking. So it's very difficult. How do you prepare for it? You don't. It's basically on-the-job training. So President Trump's got 3 years on these Fugazi Democratic socialists. He's got 3 years on them. And his brain is like, he just absorbs. So he knows what's going on, what's going to happen, what's not going to happen, where he's going, where he may not be going. So it's like amazing when he has these, when if it's like a Bernie Sanders, it's going to be like theater. It's going to be a tremendous campaign. President Trump and his social media and his infrastructure, he never had in 2016. He's got it now. The infrastructure he has now, he never had in 2016. The social media he had, but now it's on steroids. He never had it like the way it is now. I don't know everything exactly what he has, but I know it's been upped. It's been enhanced. His fundraising has been incredible. I mean, President Trump is ready for the 2020 battle, and he's going to win. Landslide. Hashtag Trump 2020 landslide. You heard it here. Frankie Russo show straight out of Brooklyn. I'm telling you. Like I called Wisconsin in 2016. Like I called Minnesota. He would have won if Evan McMillan wasn't there. I called Colorado That was a Fugazi election. A lot of fraud went on over there. I called Michigan. I called Pennsylvania. I called Ohio. And I called Wisconsin. We called up at 77 WABC, the Frankie Russo show. We were quite frankly, we were, of all of the broadcasters, I was a weekend broadcaster up there. Of all the broadcasters that broadcasted out of the main studio at 77 WABC, the iconic, I mean, it's a great place. It really is. I miss it. I'd love to be back up in there. So we called it. We took a lot of heat from some of the producers over there, and we stuck to our guns, and we called it. We were the show. We were the Trump show. Of all the shows, we were the Trump show, quite frankly. So that's where we are. So I'm going to get the map now. We're gonna go through the map, and I'm going to show you why we believe. Obviously, like I said, we got the Russo disclaimer, outside looking in, no U.S. congressional oversight committees, no International Atomic Energy Agency, no Joint Chiefs of Staff, no National Security Council, no access to classified docs, nor do we know anyone who's access to classified docs, court papers, judges' decisions, peer-reviewed journal articles, and well-sourced, well-researched open source articles. What we're searching for is a quasi-model, quote-unquote, statistical significance, and all likelihood, no probability, look for trends, differences, and patterns in the data, and then we attempt to conceivably reach reasonable, responsible conclusions. And by the way, we believe all conclusions are close. Classified information is the mean. We're within the standard deviation of the mean. The Russo disclaimer. So we are within the standard deviation of the mean. Classified information. We are creeping toward, our goal is incontrovertible truth. As Kenneth Tillman said, the great investigative reporter. So, here. Mel, how you doing, Mel? I'm going to send you a little yo. Mel, I'm going to send you a yo back, son. One of my 77 WABC compadres. So I'm going to get the map out. I'm going to show on this map why we believe at the Frankie Russo show up here in Brooklyn on my couch. Why President Trump got out of that fake Iranian nuke deal. Because remember, the Obama-Clinton crime family did not include the Iranian ballistic missile program inside the Iranian nuke deal. That's why when President Trump said in January of 2017, so help me God, I'll defend this great country, he raised his right hand. The next day, Rocket Man is shooting rockets every month. And Iran's shooting rockets. And Iran's saying, we're not doing anything wrong. This is not in the agreement. And President Trump's going, what the heck is going on over here? Right? And he was 100% right. And so I'm going to start with North Korea, and I'm going to show you why, President Trump is a tremendous, his political prowess is tremendous. And, you hear these socialists, these lefty Democrats going, well, it's extraordinary diplomacy. No. You know what it is? It's President Trump ginning up, turning the engines of the United States economy and the energy sector, unleashing the United States energy sector, and therefore being a player in the global economy, more so than ever, right? And there comes the influence. There comes the President Trump brilliance. Garnering influence, telling them not to buy, like in Europe, not to buy oil from Russia, buy it from us. Like he did, many of those Eastern European countries, and globally around the world, buying from us, like Canada, like Poland, to name a few. Buy them from us. Buy the oil from us. We are a player. President Trump has us as the #1 oil exporter on the planet, United States, President Trump. Thank you, Mr. President. So let's get to the map, and I'm going to show you Iran, and I'm going to bring in that other stuff, and it becomes so compelling. Why this? The reasons why we watch Iran, because the vectors of the 150 tons of uranium to 350 tons of uranium, according to Associated Press, Iran has 130 tons of uranium to 350 tons of uranium. So one of those numbers is right, or something in the middle. That's a lot of uranium. And I'll just remind you, 1 kilogram of uranium-235, you put it through the nuclear fission process, and guess what? You got 9 times 10 to the 13 joules of heat energy. That's 9 plus 13 zeros. With 1 kilogram, Iran's got 130 tons to 350 tons. What are they looking to blow up? A continent? Right? Because the people ain't getting that. The truth be told, if you want to be honest and real. I'm going to get the map now. Let's get this map and we get out of here. Okay. So let me get this map up here. This is my first map session on the Twitter. So I'm curious how it's going to play out. I'm curious how it looks. I don't know how it looks. So let's see. It looks pretty good. I hope it's coming. I don't know. I don't know how this is going to go, but I hope it looks pretty good. Okay, so here we're going to start. I'm going to start in North Korea. Right? So here we go. North Korea is this little dot. China is this big country. China's huge, right? North Korea is this little dot. Who controls North Korea? Okay. Right? So President Trump goes fire and fury to North Korea, right? North Korea is concerned about South Korea. South Korea is the number 1 arms importer on the planet. We have 50 plus troops in the area between Guam, Japan, and South Korea. So North Korea is all ginning up, right? They're going, North Korea, we got nukes. And according to the 2013 DIA report with Lieutenant General Michael Flynn as director, according to that report, North Korea has miniaturized nuclear warheads for its long-term ballistic missile program. Highly confident. So much so, they said it's old news. They've got, apparently, it's not very difficult to do, especially today, miniaturized nuclear warheads for its long-term ballistic missiles program, according to the DIA report. And in addition, claiming that it's old news, that they believe that North Korea had gotten this miniaturized nuclear warheads for its long-term ballistic missile program back in 2006. So Obama is sitting on his hands. Another fake fraud Obama-Clinton crime family, right? And then Bill Clinton, when he was president, gave $4 billion, thank you, Bill Clinton, to Rocket Man's father. They got concentration camps over there. Yeah, it's energy aid. They want to help their people. They whacked their family. So the Clintons and the Obamas did us dirty in North Korea, quite frankly, right? And China provides 90% of oil comes from this friendly pipeline from China to North Korea. So who controls North Korea? China. President Trump's yelling, fire and fury. I'm going to whack North Korea. Meanwhile, he's sitting down with President Xi, and he's saying he's working out his deal. So what happened was China wants to get a better deal, wants to really work out a deal with the grace of God. We hope China, President Xi wants to work out a good deal with our great President Donald Trump. So they're putting heat on Rocket Man to get in there and work it out with the United States with this for eventually this profound denuclearization agreement to actually go from paper to real deal Holyfield, like making it happen. So President Xi wants to bring that to President Trump to help him get what he wants for China. Does President Xi? That's why it's so important. I believe, outside looking in, Foreign policy is very complicated, but it's very important that, at least in the public view, it's very important for President Xi that Rocket Man shows a good sign of faith with President Trump. It just gives President Xi a better position with us, so it helps them get a better, helps them in the negotiating process. So that's why we believe. So President Trump has done a fabulous job, is what I'm trying to say, basically, with his handlings with Rocket Man, his handlings with China, because China is a problem, right? Okay. We need to have a better relations with China, and we're hoping with President Trump and the way it's going, we're going to. Hopefully he can get this, he can iron out a good trade deal with China, a fair reciprocal trade deal with China, as well as get some sort of denuclearization, get a more profound denuclearization agreement with Rocket Man through China, obviously, right? So China, and as we know now I'm going to start. So here we go. We're in Sunan International Airport, Air Koryo. I talk about this all the time on my scope show. I was a silver scoper on Twitter. So Air Koryo, the Sunan International Airport, North Korea, a commercial airliner flies over the border of North Korea and Russia into Vladivostok Airport, lands, takes out the missile and rockets, because they have missile and rocket components on the Air Koryo air flight. So they fly from Air Koryo International Airport, North Korea, over the Russian border into Vladivostok Airport. They land, this commercial airliner, and out comes the missile and rocket components to the largest airliner in the Russian Federation, Airflot, right? They load up the missile and rocket components and then fly these missile and rocket components over Chinese airspace into the capital of Iran, Tehran. In the capital of Iran, in Tehran, they assemble the missile and rocket components and fly them either by Iran Air or Marwan Air to the borders of Israel, Syria. In Syria, Iran has 3 to 10 military bases in the 8-mile radial direction around Damascus. That's Iran's command center, right? And above Damascus, there's 2 to 4 Russian military bases, and we have 8 to 10 military bases, does the United States in Syria, above Raqqa, where the Kurds are, okay? So that's to give you that dynamic with North Korea over China. I mean, it's quite profound, right? So then we go further in, right? So now, we talk about this all the time, right? We got Tehran, and we got the vector in the third quadrant in the Cartesian coordinate system, about 240 degrees going southwest into Baghdad. It's about a 5-hour, because these vectors, these position vectors are quite profound. There isn't a major water mass, because we look at the ground. That's how we make our analysis is basically the ground, and we look at these vectors quite, they're approximations, but the fact that there's no profound water mass, there's no major mountain that we know of with these vectors, they can actually, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps could drop in a Winnebago with 100 automatic weapons, from Tehran, go into Baghdad, drop off what they had 20 in the Winnebago, 20 IRGC soldiers, drop them off in Baghdad with 50 automatic rifles, right? And then from there, from Baghdad, it's 180 degrees west. It is the most profound vector, unfortunately, that Iran has, from Baghdad to Damascus. It's 180 degrees west. it is one of Iran's most effective vectors, probably, is from Baghdad to Damascus. And they go from Baghdad to Damascus, and then they're in Syria. And from there, so that's a 5 hour ride approximately from Baghdad to Damascus, and then from the hub, the Iranian command center, Iran is like what, less than 2 hours into Beirut, Lebanon, and then they're right on the Gaza. They're right there with Israel. Now, according to Danny Donen, the Israeli representative of the National Security Council, Hezbollah, the Shiite terrorism arm of Iran, has over 100,000 rockets underground, more than any NATO country has above ground, does Hezbollah in Beirut, which is, I don't know what kind of range they have, but it's a hop, skip, and a jump from Beirut to Israel, probably to Tel Aviv and or to Jerusalem, right? So with these vectors, Iran definitely poses an existential threat to Israel, without a doubt. These are the most profound vectors. And then we talk about on just to give you another caveat to this whole thing, because we talk about the Iranian global terror network and Iran's influence over not only the North Africa, Middle Eastern region, their influence over in Malaysia, we talked about last night. We still haven't come up with any tangential connection between Riza Aziz, the producer of Wolf of Wall Street, the head of this Red Granite Productions company, and the First Islamic Investment Bank, the Iranian-owned First National Investment Bank, and or any other facet of the Iranian global terror network. Well, Muslim Brotherhood, we know, is profoundly in Malaysia. Muslim Brotherhood has we'll get into that later briefly. But so these initial vectors I showed, these are the profound vectors of why President Trump is pulling out of the Iranian nuke deal. It's fake. First of all, they didn't include the Iranian ballistic missile program inside the Iranian nuke deal. Let's be real, right? It's very difficult. It's very difficult to stop a country with Iran's will from proliferating. Absolutely, right? Very difficult. But so not including the Iranian ballistic missile program inside the Iranian nuke deal, the premise is a loss from Jump Street. And you ain't slowing Iran down, because the premise of this Obama Clinton crime family fake Iranian nuke deal was to slow Iran's thirst for proliferation down, and that ain't happening, right? And it all came out with the Netanyahu and the Mossad, the Israeli intelligence hub, and their garnering of this Iranian atomic archive file. They got it, and it shows unequivocally that Iran is in pursuit, heavily in pursuit for weapons proliferation, right? Nuclear weapons proliferation. So the other vectors from Iran I want to show you is from Sahid in Iran, where 600,000 Iranian Sunnis live, right? Because Iran is predominantly Shiite country, tens of millions of Shiites live in Iran. 600,000 Sunnis live in Sahid, the city of Sahid, where Al-Qaeda foreign fighters reside, so Iran, that's their hub of where they store, they train, because there's at least 4 Afghan Taliban training camps inside of Iran. Those are Sunni militias, Sunni terrorists. They have these terrorist cells inside of Iran. There's an Afghanistan refugee camp, which is a front for the Taliban, pretty much, right? So they got a refugee camp inside of Iran, an Afghan refugee camp, where the Taliban has a headquarters in Sahid. Omar Mullah Mansour, they both were whacked by drones. They were there. Hamas, the Palestinian branch of Muslim Brotherhood has an office in Tehran. And the Al Qaeda foreign fighters, which we were talking about, Al Qaeda foreign fighters, the Al Qaeda facilitators of the Sunni Shiite nexus, which is the Iranian global terror network, right? Inside of Iran. And there's a vector from actually a train that runs from Sahedin directly through the Baku, the Caspian Sea, right into Moscow. And from there, they could meet an Al Qaeda foreign fighter, an Al Qaeda facilitator for the financing of the Iranian global terror network. They could meet the likes of Mohammad Jodaki, Khalil Harab from Hezbollah, and the Quds Force in Moscow, and that's a gateway into Europe, right? And from there, so he can meet some Al Qaeda facilitators with some money, give them some dough. This Al Qaeda foreign fighter, this Al Qaeda facilitator for the Sunni Shiite nexus, the Iranian global terror network, they can meet in Moscow. Could bring them from the cash that Obama gave them, 1.7 billion in cash. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, 150 billion back to Iran. You look at my vectors on my website, frankierusso.media. I don't know how, with all of those vectors that we got from court papers, judges' decisions, peer-reviewed journal articles, and well-sourced, well-researched open source articles, I don't know how the Obama-Clinton crime family justifies giving Iran 150 billion back, giving the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps 1.7 billion in cash. They actually went around the federal statutes and converted the money from U.S. dollars. They money laundered the money from U.S. dollars to euro notes, so they could move this money through all of Europe, through all of the North African, Middle Eastern region. They empowered not only the Islamic Republic of Iran government, which is evil, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, the entity, the government entity that our great president Donald Trump sanctioned them as foreign terrorist organizations. The first time in our history, U.S. Treasury sanctioned a government entity as a foreign terrorist organization. Off the hook. This is the reason why President Trump pulled out of the Iranian nuke deal. Look at these vectors. So from Sahedin, he's in Moscow, right? So the Al Qaeda foreign fighter, the Sunni foreign fighter, brings money to a Quds Force leader, to a Hezbollah leader, meets him in Moscow. He leaves the Al Qaeda foreign fighter leaves the Moscow meeting and takes the same train to Ankara, Istanbul, meets some Muslim Brotherhood operatives over there. That's where they all fled when Sisi coup Morsi. They went to Libya, Sudan, and Istanbul, Turkey. He could meet the Al Qaeda foreign fighter, the facilitator for the Sunni Shiite nexus, the Iranian global terror network. They do this with the money, weapons, training, human assets. They put these Sunni militias, these Sunni terrorists. They put these like Ansar al-Sharia in Benghazi in Libya. I mean, it's beyond belief what the Iranians do. So from Istanbul and Ankara, Turkey, then from Istanbul they can go talk to from Istanbul, and then from Istanbul they can go to Ankara, Turkey, and talk to Erdogan. He's the top Muslim Brotherhood leader right now. I think he's the highest ranking Muslim Brotherhood leader on the planet right now is Erdogan. Omar al-Bashir is gone. He got couped. He was there since '89 in South Sudan. So he was the biggest Muslim Brotherhood leader was Omar al-Bashir with Hassan al-Tarabi. We talked about this on my sculpture. We're going to talk about it again. So from Turkey, they can go from Ankara, Turkey, they can go to you can go to Tehran. The train has a stop in Tehran, the capital of Iran, and he can visit the Khomeini and then go back home to Sahedin, all in a train ride from Sahedin, Iran. A stealthy vector that's quite extraordinary for the Iranian global terror network. So in addition, right, we talk about this. We got Iran now because of so President Trump is attacking the Iranian economy to try to get them to the table like he did with North Korea. So he met with President Xi and he got his deals going with North Korea, and he's trying to put the screws on North Korea with his Pompeos and his Boltons, and so he's sicking the Dobermans on Rocket Man. And then in the G20 he met with President Xi recently, and he met with Putin. So he met with Putin to put the screws on Iran, because Russia obviously wants economy. Russia don't have the economy that we have, that China has. Russia wants economy. Russia has military. Russia has nukes. Russia has nuclear. They know nukes. They have the nuclear scientists. They want economy. They want to. So President Trump is using his leverage with the United States economy, right? And when he sits at the table with President Xi, when he sits at the table with Putin, and he's talking to Putin about one of the topics had to come up, and I would bet Iran, because what Russia's doing with Iran is they're building nuclear reactors inside of Iran, and the Russians know nukes, right? And wouldn't it be crazy if the uranium from that uranium one scandal with the Obama Clinton crime family okaying the transfer of 20% of our nuclear assets, uranium, to a Russian energy agency, Rosatom, and it was okayed by Obama's Eric Holder, and Obama's Secretary of State, the Obama Clinton crime family, Hillary Clinton, the transfer of 20% of our nuclear assets to a Russian energy agency. Wouldn't it be a killer? It would be crazy. It would be ridiculous. It would be unbelievably horrific to find out that uranium that Russia garnered from us in that while Hillary Clinton's sitting on the foreign committee, on the U.S. foreign committee with Eric Holder voting okay, the investors of Uranium One are putting in $145 million into the Clinton Foundation coffers, and Rosatom is getting 20% of our nuclear assets, uranium. Could you imagine if that uranium is being used for the Iranian projects that Russia's working on, the nuclear reactors? It's my understanding they have 8. They're contracted for 8. The last time I checked, they were working on their second one, and according to Netanyahu, that's just a front that Iran is, according to the Mossad acquisition of the Iranian atomic archive files. Iran is pursuing nuclear weapons proliferation. So this is why President Trump pulled out the Iranian nuke deal, as looking to put the screws on Iran. And then when we go down and we move, right? So we know Iran is looking for not only, see the problem with Iran now we look, right? We look at this area. You got Saudi Arabia versus Iran. So we got these proxy wars going on, right? We got Saudi Arabia, Israel, United States versus Iran, Russia, and Hezbollah, right? Pretty much, right? Egypt is a very, very big piece to this puzzle in this geopolitical climate, right? Egypt, so this is why the Obama Clinton crime family, they're traitors. They are treasonous. They're liars and frauds. Mubarak, who was number 2 under Sadat, got whacked Sadat in the 70s. Mubarak took over. Mubarak was pro-America, pro-Israel, right? The Obama Clinton crime family takes in, they coup him, he gets thrown out, and they forced, they had this election which probably was fixed based on the way this whole thing played out in Egypt. Morsi was elected, this creation from the the intelligence community. They created this Egyptian diplomat who became president of the Muslim Brotherhood Party, the Justice and Freedom Party inside of Egypt. He was educated in America. He, all this. They claim he worked in NASA, which I don't know. I checked out that data. It didn't pan out. At one point in time, he said his wife was American. Now his wife is not American. At one time, he said he had all his 5 kids were U.S. citizens. Now there are only 2 kids that are U.S. citizens. So who knows really what the scoop is on this guy? This guy's like the Egyptian Barack Obama. Nobody knows the real deal with this guy. This guy died recently. He was in jail for a 25-year prison sentence. After he got couped, he got arrested for a 25-year prison sentence for espionage with Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran, right? So Morsi was, we believe, so we put Morsi in that list of U.S. diplomats. I mean, not U.S. diplomats. He's an Egyptian diplomat, but we have that list, which I'm going to bring onto the show at some point in time. We have Mohammad Zarif, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Iran. He was the Iranian ambassador to the UN. He aided and abetted radical Islamic terror with that 650 Fifth Avenue case. He was in that case head over heels. He avoided prosecution. We don't know how. According to Weekly Standard, they saw the court papers. They couldn't believe it. We had that Mohammed Ahmed Youssef from Sudan. He worked with the Sudanese mission with this guy Sajid Ali and Abu Alima and Mohammed Salah with the 200 gallons of diesel fuel to blow up the 1993 World Trade Center. Crazy stuff, right? Then we had the other diplomat the one from with Muhammad Atta, the Iraqi diplomat who was arrested apparently from Iraq, met with Muhammad Atta, one of the 9/11 hijackers, Muslim Brotherhood operative, before 9/11, met with this Iraqi intelligence officer in Prague. As he's meeting Mohammed, what's his name? KSM, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed in Hamburg and in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. This is so this is on my website, 9/11, the 9/11 Hijackers Summit in Malaysia. So, which is probably, quite frankly, I've said it before, it was probably an intelligence. They double banged the informants that they had inside these 9/11 terror cells. Anwar al-Awlaki was probably one of them. They double banged our intelligence community, and that's how that 9/11 thing happened. We believe. So Iran is in. So here's another thing, right? So Iran and so we talked about this proxy war between Iran. So what happens is Saudi Arabia is building a 600-foot wall along the Iraqi border to keep out not ISIS, well, Sunni militias materially supported by the Hezbollah, Quds Force, and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps from Iraq, from Syria, absolutely. So what happened was they're building a 600-foot wall over here. So Iran, through Oman, in the Gulf of Oman, smuggling weapons to the Houthi rebels in Sana'a, because they materially supported those Houthi rebels who couped the Sunni government of Hadi. The Hadi government got sent from Sana'a into Aden, and it became it's like a civil war going on into Yemen. And these Houthi rebels are shooting missiles from Sana'a. Riyadh is the Houthi rebels are which Iran backed, and that was proven by Nikki Haley's missiles in Washington when she was the U.S. ambassador to the UN. It said made in Iran. So from Sana'a, the vectors are quite clear that the Houthi rebels pose an imminent threat to Riyadh, and they shot missiles at Riyadh. But thank God we're there because we have military bases in Bahrain. We have the largest military base outside the United States is in Qatar, the Persian Gulf, and so from Sana'a to Riyadh, it's a definite imminent threat to the well-being of Riyadh. So they launched missiles over there, and our defense system pretty much stopped it, right? So that's how Iran's moving in this region. So getting back to Morsi and Egypt, the cooing of Morsi, if Morsi was still around, like Sisi's been in power now for 5 years after the coup of Morsi. If Morsi was still in power, Israel would probably be in, Iran probably would have attacked Israel by now, probably, if Morsi was still in power, because the questions of the North African, Middle Eastern region and these radical Islamists, the Palestinian state is like a third or fourth issue right now, according to, and this has been confirmed by General Keane on Fox News. The Palestinian state, this two-state solution, is like a third or fourth issue with this global jihad movement, right? It's not 50 years ago where you had Yasser Arafat, the PLO, and the Palestinian state. It's no longer the issue today. Today, it's who are the direct descendants of Muhammad? Who is going to be the next Ottoman Empire? Is it going to be Turkey? Erdogan wants that. Is it going to be Saudi Arabia? I don't think that's the number one thing with them. I think with Saudi Arabia, yes, they want regional hegemony, but to protect their economic position, to protect their market share in OPEC. They're more concerned about their market share in OPEC. Now, I'm not saying Iran is not concerned about their market share in OPEC, which they are, but they understand economic power means regional hegemony. They want regional hegemony. They want military power. They want dominance, does Iran. They thirst for it. They want to be the Ottoman Empire, and I believe that they're the next Nazi Germany. I believe Iran is. So with that being said, you could see how Iran, this country Iran, influences. They basically go after, quite frankly, densely Shiite populated countries like Iraq, like Syria, Baghdad, Iraq, like Damascus, Syria, like Beirut, Lebanon, and like Sana'a, Yemen. And that's how they control the countries, through the capitals. And like in Egypt, Iran has a say in Sudan. Well, when al-Bashir was there, I don't know what's going on now, but when al-Bashir was there, Iran was there in the 90s. They helped al-Bashir coup, 89, with Hassan Tarabi. And that's where the Iranian Global Terror Network started. Muslim Brotherhood. So the only way Iran's going to garner regional hegemony, because the Sunnis, there's 9 Sunnis to 1 Shiite in the North African Middle Eastern region. So how is Iran going to garner regional hegemony? They got to partner with a Sunni partner, and the Sunni partner is Muslim Brotherhood. And it started in Sudan with al-Bashir helped them coup, and the Pan-Islamic Summit, where the Sunni Shiite nexus came about, when the likes of Abdel Hakim Balhaj from Libya, Muslim Brotherhood, Noman Benoitman from Libya, another Libyan, Muslim Brotherhood. And then you had, so Iran from Sudan, then they obviously were in Libya and Egypt. So what happened was in the Pan-Islamic Summit with Hassan Tarabi, Osama bin Laden, Hezbollah, Ayman al-Zawahiri, Al-Qaeda, Hamas, Palestinian branch of Muslim Brotherhood, all in the 90s in Sudan. That's how they started this global jihad movement and attacking America, the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, the USS Cole, and they had all this from this hub in Sudan. This was their hub, one of their trigger points. They had the Kuala Lumpur summit meetings. They planned the USS Cole attack in the Gulf of Aden. Then you had the 9/11 hijackers and Anwar al-Awlaki, the 9/11 Ayman. And then you had the Omar Abdel Rahman, the 1993 World Trade Center Imam. And he came from Sudan, originally from Egypt. He was part of the Egyptian Islamic Jihad with Ayman al-Zawahiri. They whacked Sadat. And the crazy stuff that came out of that was they were going to kill him. They were going to kill Omar Abdel Rahman, the blind sheikh. And he said he did nothing wrong. He said he was blind. He knows the Quran wrote. He got a PhD in Quranic studies. He said nothing. He said he did nothing wrong. He said nothing wrong. He said everything he did, he said, it's in the Quran. He said it's in the Quran. Like he said when he was facing his lifetime prison sentence, they said you can have anything to say, Omar Abdel Rahman. He said, call me a Muslim, call me a terrorist. He said he did nothing wrong. He planned to blow up buildings, and they blew up some buildings. They blew up some of the World Trade Center, and he said he did nothing wrong. He said it's in the Quran. He said, and that's the problem. It's in the Quran. The Quran is the problem, and these imams, because what they do is, according to Andrew McCarthy, blind sheep prosecutor, they take these imams, these spiritual leaders of these terror cells. They use the texts of the Quran to further radicalize and to further embolden these terrorists to kill Americans and to blow up buildings in America. Beyond belief. So this is all coming out of Sudan, and Iran is there. Iran's in Libya. Iran worked out that deal. Iran was part of Iran is behind the Benghazi attack. According to published reports, Kenneth Tillerman, all the intelligence pointed to Iran. It was basically, like we talk, a Sunni militia fronted by the Iranian Quds Force, General Soleimani. And basically, and the vectors are clear. You had Benghazi, right? So first of all, it starts at Ajabaya. Ajabaya is a city, a town inside of Libya. And that's where logistical and technical support was brought into Benghazi, the terror cells, from Ajabaya. So 90 degrees north, they're in Benghazi. Now from Benghazi, a 45-degree vector going northeast, you're in Derna. That's where all the human assets are. That's where the Al-Qaeda foreign fighters are, like Big Kumu, former Gitmo detainee, like Abu Khatala, from Derna. So the vectors are very clear, right? So in Benghazi, Iran materially supported with money, weapons, and training. This is well documented by Kenneth Tillerman through the Hezbollah and Quds Force, the special forces of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, funneling $8 to $10 million to this Ansar al-Sharia cutout. In other words, Sunni foreign fighters, Sunni terrorists from different walks of life, like Muhammad Jamal, the Muslim Brotherhood network in Egypt, claiming, according to Raymond Ibrahim, was sent by Morsi to work with Iran, the Ansar al-Sharia Sunni militia cutout. They called this group Ansar al-Sharia. And it wasn't only made up of, the reason why it's a cutout, it wasn't only made up of Libyans. It was made up of Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood operatives. It's crazy stuff, right? 8 to 10 million was given to this, according to Kenneth Tillerman, through Mohammed Jodaki to Khalil Harab, to Ansar al-Sharia, and they put the hit on the Benghazi mission. That was the big cover-up, and Iran was behind it. Now, according to Kenneth Tillerman, the $8 to $10 million came from Quds Force bank accounts. Quds Force is the special forces of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. And those bank accounts were in Malaysia. Right here. And that's by the Strait of Malacca. 80%, I said this the other night, 80% of China's the number one oil importer on the planet, and 80% of China's oil goes through the Strait of Malacca. What the hell is going on in there? So we're trying to figure it out, right? We talked about, so one of the things we know, Quds Force accounts, we know that the First Islamic Investment Bank is owned by an Iranian national, and we know this guy Babak Zanjani, the billionaire who is selling oil, 24 million barrels of oil off the port of Labuan in Malaysia to get around the Western sanctions, the U.S. sanctions that we were putting on Iran. This billionaire was fronting for the Iranian government, apparently, and he was selling oil, Iranian oil, 24 million barrels of Iranian oil off the port of Labuan in Malaysia. At the same time, this is why reason why we watch this stuff, because the way Iran moves, it's dangerous. Because we don't want Iran to proliferate, and that's a problem for not only America, but for the world. Nuclear war, nuclear attacks, nobody wins in a nuclear war. So with this guy, Babak Zanjani, the billionaire he was on the trial, a hearing, they were going to kill him, but he's got money, so he's buying everybody, right? Because they turned on him. Hassan Rouhani, he was very close to Ahmadinejad, was this guy, Babak Zanjani. And when Ahmadinejad is no longer there, Hassan Rouhani's got to show that he's going to take a hard line with this, that he's not like Ahmadinejad from the IRGC, and he's for the people, this whole thing, the political perceptions that are created. So this guy, this Iranian billionaire was very close to the Turkish Iranian, who bribed this Reza Zarrab. Reza Zarrab was the banker for Babak Zanjani. And Reza was this gold trader that was bribing Erdogan, Erdogan's wife, Erdogan's son, Erdogan's grandson, with millions of dollars for Erdogan to open up the channels, open up the doors into Turkish banks so he could money launder money through the Turkish banks to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. So that's been tried. He pleaded out, and they were found guilty of this. But he copped the plea, so I don't know what kind of agreement he has with the federales over here in America. But he got extradited to America. Did this guy Reza Zarrab, very close to the Iranian billionaire who's facing death, but he's not going to probably die because he's got so much money. He's probably bribing everybody. He was worth at 1.13 billion, and apparently this Reza Zarrab was holding the money. So this is how Iran moves, right? So now Malaysia, right? Malaysia. So we know there's a First Islamic Investment Bank in there, and maybe I don't have incontrovertible truth. I don't know if that Quds Force account is in the First Islamic Investment Bank that funded the Benghazi hit, that gave $8 to $10 million to Ansar al-Sharia through Hezbollah Quds Force conduits, Mohammed Jodaki and Khalil Harabi. I don't know that. In addition, we know that in Malaysia, so we know about this. This Reza Aziz. I'm still trying to find at the very least, a tangential connection to Iran, to the Islamic investment, the First Islamic Investment Bank. That's owned by an Iranian national. So apparently, there's a big Muslim Brotherhood population inside of Malaysia. And but I do know, but it's my understanding through the open source that the Saudi kingdom gave So it's this guy Aziz. This guy Aziz. This Riza Aziz is the stepson to the former prime minister of Malaysia. That Najib Razak. He's the guy that's got these strong ties with Muslim Brotherhood, and apparently this Justice Party headed by Ibrahim Anwar, right? Who and this other guy, Mathia Mohammed, teamed up and took over Malaysia. The senior politician, this Mathia Mohammed, is right now the prime minister of Malaysia. And this guy, Ibrahim Anwar, the Muslim Brotherhood operative, the president of the Justice Party inside of Malaysia, is jockeying and is next in line to take over the Malaysian government. So, and apparently the Malaysians and the Muslims is pretty much, by and large, the population there. I'm not. There are other denominations there, but I know Malaysia and the Muslim Brotherhood, they're the swing vote. So they're looking to take over Malaysia. Malaysia is where the 9/11 hijackers summit was. We talked about that. We talked about the China and the 80% of China's oil goes through Malaysia. The Strait of Malacca, which is between the Sumatra Island and Malaysia. We talked about the selling of the oil by this guy Babak Sanjani, the Iranian billionaire, off the port of Labuan, right? 24 million barrels of oil he sold. Unbelievable. He's worth 13.5 billion approximately. We talked about that. So we're watching. These are the reasons why President Trump is taking such a hard line on Iran. Because the biggest issue he has, the biggest vector from this region is the proliferation of Iran. If Iran gets nukes, the whole world has a problem, not just America. Because nuclear war, nuclear attacks, nobody wins. And Iran has already threatened to bomb Israel. Iran has already threatened to bomb America. So Iran, and that's what they use, because Iran also, just to give you a little heads up, Iran owns half of a gas field inside with Qatar, in the Persian Gulf. And they worked out this LNG plant with China and France. Total SA, the top 7 oil company on the planet, Total SA, France, and China are building a LNG plant inside of the Persian Gulf, the gas field with Iran shares a gas field. Iran shares a gas field with Qatar. So that's how that goes. So Iran wants to be a LNG, natural gas exporter. That's came about because of the Obama-Clinton crime family nuke deal, the fake nuke deal. So these are the reasons why President Trump is taking such a hard line on Iran. He does not want them to proliferate. That would be a big problem, not only for America, but for the world. And that's why we constantly watching, because Iran are the big smugglers. They like sanctions though. See, I don't know if they like sanctions, or I'm not saying I shouldn't say it. I'm not saying they like sanctions, but they know how to move. What I'm trying to say basically is Iran knows how to move through their region, through the international banking system, if they're sanctioned, is what I'm trying to say. So either way, they know how to move. That's why I'm laughing when I listen to them and they're complaining about they don't care. I'm not saying they just don't care about their people. They're more concerned, I believe, the Islamic Republic of Iran, that government is more concerned about proliferating, getting nuclear weapons than helping their people. That's why they have a lot in common with the Rocket Man in North Korea. A lot in common. So this is where we are, and we'll touch on some more aspects of this this it's late. This Iranian regional hegemony inside of the North African Middle Eastern region. It's growing, and it's very stealthy, and you gotta watch them. We have to watch them carefully. So that's where we're at. I'm starting to get used to this YouTube thing. Just wanted to talk about Iran tonight. But tomorrow we'll see what's going on. So I'm going to get out of here. It's late. I'm on the air for an hour. It's got to be close to 12 o'clock, if not after 12. So that was pretty interesting. I enjoyed it, and I hope we shedded some light on some issues and some things. And you can send me a on Twitter. I'm at Frankie Russo 144. I'll put my website here. Frankie Russo. You can see the vectors. You can see how deep we go. Frankie Russo .media. You can see the vectors website. So we go deep, and we're going to go deeper because I want to bring in. So I got a little sidetracked with the Malaysia thing. We garnered some information over there, but I really want to hone in on Libya. I have some interesting stuff on Libya and what the Obama Clinton crime family did in Libya and what they did in Egypt, and why this all is not good for us. Because if they would have been successful with Morsi, Israel probably would have been attacked already. Quite frankly, in all honesty. So it would have created a war already. But because Sisi and Israel, the Mossad, couped Egypt, it helped us. And if you look at what President Trump did, he aligned with Riyadh, with the kingdom, and Egypt. Sisi was there. Erdogan wasn't at that initial Riyadh summit. So that's where we are. I'm going to put my site again so everybody understands. I don't know if it's clear on my less blog. I'm going to put my site here again so everybody understands. Frankie Russo .media is my site. AmericasTeam.nyc. So there it is. Okay. So I'm going to get out of here. So tomorrow we'll see what we're going to talk about. But I just wanted to give you all a little overview on why our great president got out of the Iranian nuke deal and all that. I didn't even get into the money that the Obama Clinton crime family gave. I did, but not as much as we're going to over the next few days, because I'm going to talk about tomorrow Libya, Egypt, which is going to tie in Iran, and then we're going to go back to Iran, and then go back to the United States, and we'll probably blog the eighth vector, the global Muslim Brotherhood in America, part 2, the Obama Clinton crime family vector. And as I do this, I show you the Trump vectors. So the Obama Clinton crime family were anti-American. It was an anti-American vector field. And President Trump, the Trump vectors are mega vectors, make America great vectors, America first vectors. And he was, for the last 3 years, he's been countering everything that the Obama Clinton crime family put forth. And you can point to the economy, unleashing the regulations on the pumping of oil, where he just unleashed the energy sector, and now he's using that as a tool, as a sphere of influence for foreign diplomatic relations with the countries throughout the world. And I point to, like I said earlier, Poland, for example, Canada. I point to other nations, those are just to name a few, other nations that President Trump, because everybody's concerned about because Russia wants economy, right? They have economic issues, and they're trying to garner a greater. That's why they started that Jamal. They built one. They're working on a second one. The LNG plant, the liquefied natural gas plant inside of the Jamal Peninsula, I think Jamal region inside of Russia, and China's involved with that. So they're looking to bring natural gas into China. Is Russia? China's big. China's a billion. That's a self-contained economy. They got billions of people there, right? I'm just saying. So that's where we are. Okay. So we'll continue tomorrow. This is Frankie Russo. Thank you so much, Mel. Thank you for the visit. This is Frankie Russo. God bless the men and women of the United States Armed Forces. God bless the men and women of the United States Armed Forces. Thank you for your service. Thank you for providing me with the freedom that I love to broadcast. God bless you, and God bless the men and women of the United States Armed Forces. God bless the greatest country on the planet, America, and God bless our great president, Donald John Trump. This is Frankie Russo. I'll be on here tomorrow night. The Yankees don't start up again in the second half till Friday. So I'll be on the air tomorrow night. I'll try to get on early. I got to take care of something, so I'll probably be on a little later when I come back. So this is Frankie Russo, and I'll be on tomorrow night, probably 10-ish, 10:30-ish Eastern Standard Time. This is Frankie Russo, and I'll see you in the future.